Oh, it's an emergency edition of PFTPM. Not that it's really an emergency, but we have a development. After months of silence, Aaron Rodgers has spoken. He appeared out of the blue with maybe an hour's notice on Pat McAfee Show today to explain what's going on with his lack of a new NFL franchise. And I fully respect his explanation. He's got personal issues involving his inner circle, and he didn't delve into the details, and he's not expected to. That's enough. Anytime someone says they have personal issues that are causing anything that is going on in their life, we all owe the respect and the dignity of deference and acceptance. Regardless of what the issues are, regardless of what's actually going on, once that card is played, the only proper thing to do is give it full and complete acceptance. Here's my issue. Why didn't he say this a long time ago? That's all he had to do. Why wait for weeks of chatter, rumors, reports, speculation to reach a critical mass? And actually, it had all kind of subsided. I don't know what the trigger was today. He said his sister, who monitors the things that are out there, told him he probably should come out and say something. He didn't explain what the catalyst was, because it really did feel like things were dying down as it relates to Aaron Rodgers' status. There really wasn't much to say. No one was breathlessly reporting anything about whether or not Rodgers was going to sign here, sign there. He's waiting for this, he's waiting for that. The point is very simple. If he had come out from the get-go and said, I will not be making any decisions about my future for the foreseeable time period because I have issues in my personal life that require my full attention, and I'm unable to make the all-in commitment necessary to sign with the team. And I hope that you will respect my privacy at this time. That's all I had to say. It would have avoided so much. And he's smart enough to know that, isn't he? He's an extremely intelligent person, isn't he? Now, I question sometimes his emotional intelligence, his overall emotional awareness, dating back to one of the things he still loves to relitigate. And the only reason I'm mentioning it is because he keeps bringing it up from 5 years ago when he lied to everybody about being vaccinated. He still wants an apology for the fact that he lied to everybody about being vaccinated because he somehow thinks he's been proven right by the passage of time. He hasn't been proven right, but he wants to go back and beat that horse. He's still mad about that. And I can't help but think, this is my theory. And look, I've had no planning for this. I have no notes. I accepted the suggestion from Kristen that it might be worthwhile to chime in on what Rodgers had to say. I can't help but think that he deliberately stayed quiet as some sort of a weird laboratory experiment, just to see what everyone would say about him. Who would be reporting things? Who would be leaking things? Who can he trust? Who can he not trust? How amusing might it be to see the bullshit that gets put out there? If you allow bullshit to be said, you can't be surprised when it is said. And he could have cut it all off from the get-go by saying, hey, anyone out there that's interested in my future, first of all, thank you for being interested in my playing career and supporting me all these years. Second of all, I'm not going to be doing anything anytime soon because I have personal issues that compel me to make no decisions. And all the teams I've been talking to know it and they accept it. And I've told them, don't wait to do anything. You have to do something, go ahead and do it. Those are all things he said today. These are all things that could have been said in March. They could have been said in February. I really do believe at some level he wanted, number one, to just see how the weeds would spread in the absence of his effort to clarify the situation. And then, as usual, he reserves the right to air grievances and say, this was bullshit, that was bullshit. He said there were a lot of teams he was linked to that was bullshit. And he admitted that he's spoken to the Giants, the Vikings, and the Steelers. Those are the primary three teams he's been linked to. That wasn't bullshit. It was true. Now, there was some talk about the Rams possibly viewing him as a fallback to Matthew Stafford. The Raiders were never interested, so there was never anything there. That's it. There's this lingering possibility that maybe the Saints will give him a call because they may not have Derek Carr this season, but he seemed to confirm a significant percentage of what's been reported as it relates to the teams he's been talking to: Giants, Steelers, Vikings. And the key is this: two things. One, he said, and I'm sure his agent David Dunn is not happy about this, because I think one of the realities is Dunn has been pushing him to get more money because agents work on a percentage. And they also don't want to have their names attached to deals that are not perceived as good deals. And for Rodgers to say out loud he'll play for as little as $10 million, that's something a lot of agents won't want to have their names tied to. Future Hall of Fame quarterback, coveted prospect for multiple teams for the 2025 season, and he'll only sign for $10 million. I assume at the end of the day he's going to get more than that. The other reality is his claim that there's no deadline. I think that's important. That helps us understand where things are and when we might expect to hear something. Basically, don't expect to hear anything. Have no expectation about when he's going to make a decision. It's not the draft. And I can only assume that the fact that the draft is a week away is what spurred this. Because if a team like the Steelers drafts Shedeur Sanders next week, oh, that's slamming the door on Aaron Rodgers. I really don't know why it was now. And I can't fathom why it wasn't sooner. So much could have avoided. He likes to grouse about all the people who have made money slandering his name. Look, people are just trying to do their jobs. Those of us who follow the NFL for a living are expected to answer questions about it and address the topic. So we make our analyses based upon the evidence that's available. And in the absence of any information from Aaron Rodgers, he invites speculation. And the overall environment is conducive to different statements that are based on rumor or reports or sources or whatever. The audience wants to know what's happening. And if Rodgers isn't going to tell them directly, others are going to fill the gap. He doesn't get to make the rules of how this works. He needs to understand how it works and act accordingly. I think that's really the fundamental flaw here. He thinks he can dictate how the media is going to cover him. And he thinks that in the absence of him saying anything, everyone will say nothing. That, Aaron Rodgers, is not how it works. And you know that. You really do know that. So I keep coming back to my hypothesis, if not theory, that he deliberately stayed quiet just to see what would happen. And then at the right time, he swoops in and he calls bullshit on all the things that were said in the absence of information from him, when all he had to do was say, I'm going to take my time. I have to take my time. I've got personal issues that require my attention, and it makes me unable to make an all-in commitment to any team at this time. Period. It would have been easy. It would have been simple. Now, it wouldn't have ended everything, but it would have gone a long way toward answering a lot of the questions that people have had, especially when you have guys like Cam Hayward from the Steelers who came out and said, you either want to be a Steeler or you don't. If he understood that there are personal issues that are delaying Rodgers' ability to make a decision, maybe he wouldn't have said that. If Rodgers had come out and made that clear a long time ago, there wouldn't be that vibe among Steelers fans. That vibe that says, what's going on here? A Jets reject that we want isn't running through the door while the door is open. Why do we want him? Now, there may be some that still feel that way, but I think it's reasonable to give the guy the benefit of the doubt if he invokes weeks ago that there are personal issues keeping him from making a commitment. That's reasonable. That's fair. That's appropriate. But it's very belated. And while I will respect the explanation that he gave, I think he should have given that explanation a while ago. There was no reason not to, other than his own failure to understand how the world works, a lack of awareness as to how the media operates. And again, he wants us to do things the way he wants us to do them. Instead of understanding this is how things are done, I need to adjust my behavior to fit with the way the media sausage gets made. And I really think that's all I have to say on the matter until one of two things happen. Until number one, Aaron Rodgers says he's going to Pittsburgh, or number two, the Steelers slam the door permanently on the possibility of signing him this year. And then I guess number three is floating in there as well, because the Vikings have left the door open. Comments a few weeks ago from GM Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. The door's not closed. If the Vikings would say that door is completely closed, then it's news. So unless and until Rodgers says something or there are statements or credible reports about the Steelers slamming the door or the Vikings slamming the door or some other team opening the door, there's really nothing more to be said other than have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you bright and early on Friday morning for the latest all-new edition of Pro Football Talk Live. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.